Hello boys, it's Mr. Cady here and welcome to a series of 7 lessons on glaciation. This is Doctor Who, the old Doctor. Well, to get us thinking, I will be talking to you for 4 minutes and then set you on a few tasks that I would say should take you about 25 minutes to do properly, and then together we'll go over the answers. What would Croydon be like 20,000 years ago? What would you find? I sometimes ask my class to give 10 words. No trees, no buildings, they say. I understand. But I wonder if any of you would have thought that there'd be this. Not the cartoon characters, but ice covering much of the Croydon area. 20,000 years ago, the United Kingdom was covered in snow and ice, in places up to a mile thick. We know that this red dotted line is the extent of the ice. Okay, it didn't quite get down to Croydon, London, but it certainly grew about 1 million years ago and expanded out from those white areas you see on the map. The temperature went up and down during this time, but it was much colder than today, as you can imagine. I'm going to ask you to pause the YouTube clip. Can you think of the names of some of those white places on the map? These were the source regions where ice grew and built up year after year. Well, if you managed to pause it and if you had a look, then the answers are from the top: Northwest Highlands, the Grampian Mountains, the Southern Uplands in Scotland, the Lake District in Northern England, and Snowdonia in Wales. These were the places where the ice grew. Well, it wasn't only the United Kingdom that was covered in ice 20,000 years ago. As this map shows, much of Northern Europe was under ice, and that ice was a depth of up to 4 kilometres in places. So parts of Ireland, parts of northern Britain, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, these places were underneath layer upon layer of snow and ice. In the southern European areas of Greece, Italy, Spain, ice did not build up. Much warmer was the climate. Now, I'm going to allow you 20 minutes to use the internet and to find out the answers to some of the following questions. Please think this through carefully, and we'll go over the answers in the last 5 minutes of this lesson. Firstly, can you define the following 3 words: glacial, interglacial, and glacier? Secondly, what causes an ice age? What caused all this snow? And of course it got cold, but why did it get cold? How do we know what the temperature was so long ago in the past? We had no thermometers, people were not around to record the temperature, so how do we know it was cold? Today, we still have some snow and ice. Where in the world would we find ice and glaciers? What impact do you think glaciers and ice would have on the environment, either today or 20,000 years ago, when so much of it covered parts of Europe? Think about vegetation, landscape, rivers, the seas. And finally, we know that ice is melting fast today and glaciers are disappearing. Why is that happening? Try and explain in more than just 1 or 2 short sentences. So 20 minutes. Pause this video, boys, and then we will return together for the answers. Okay, boys, given 20 minutes, let's see how you've got on. Here are some of the answers. A glacial is a cold phase on the planet where ice, snow builds up. An interglacial is a warmer phase of the planet where temperatures rise and the ice and the snow melts. We are obviously today in an interglacial, a warmer world. And a glacier is a finger of ice built up over time in the mountains that flows downhill. So how did you get on with the causes of an ice age? That's a tricky question. The low temperatures, we think, are caused by 2 or 3 factors. Firstly, volcanic eruptions can block out the heat from the sun, and supervolcanoes, which explode, and you may remember this from just before Christmas, block out a lot of sunlight and lower temperatures. The second reason is the Earth's orbit. It changes. It becomes more elliptical and therefore brings us either closer or further from the sun. That change happens over 100,000 years. And the other reason is that the Earth's orbit, the Earth's axis wobbles as it spins. And as it does so, it will wobble the Earth slightly closer or slightly further away from the sun. Milankovitch was the scientist who discovered these factors. Question 3, how do we know what the temperature was in the past? Well, here is a temperature record going back 400,000 years. The graph at the bottom shows peaks and troughs in temperature. Now, we know this information because we dig down through ice that currently exists, and we look at the gases in the ice and the pollen trapped in the ice. And we can work out whether there was more or less vegetation on the planet, whether it was warmer, whether it was colder. We can also look at tree rings. The ring of a tree could be fossilized in the rocks, and the wider the tree ring, the more growth and the warmer years. Other information can help us, but it's ice cores, these drilling down into the ice, that give us the real clues of the temperature. I asked in question 4 to find out places on planet Earth that still have ice today, and there they are on the screen. Places such as Alaska, Greenland, the Alps, the Himalayas, the Antarctica. Why are they found here? Well, it's all to do with latitude, less sunlight, less heat arriving on the planet. The angle of the sun's rays comes in at the northern high latitudes, very weak. It's also about altitude. The higher up you go, the colder it becomes. For every 100 meters up, the temperature drops by 0.6 degrees centigrade. I'm sure you've experienced that as you've climbed a hill or something. So those areas still have ice today. I asked you about the impact that it would have on the environment. Well, imagine ice beginning to move. It actually grinds down the landscape. It erodes mountains, valleys, rivers. The seas freeze up. The impact on the vegetation, it simply can't grow. Animals struggle to survive. Only those that are adapted to cold environments, such as the mammoth, the saber-toothed tiger, those characters from Ice Age, the animation, those are the only animals that have the ability to adapt and survive the cold temperatures. And lastly, I asked question 6, why are glaciers disappearing today? Well, I hope most of you made the connection between climate change and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere coming out from factories, cars, vehicles. This carbon dioxide traps and retains heat on the planet. And as it gets warmer, very, very slowly, the glaciers, the ice sheets, they begin to melt. And as you'll see on our PowerPoint image in front of us, some of those images show you snow and ice disappearing and melting. And so our glaciers are gradually in retreat. I hope you found that useful, boys. I enjoyed making this short clip. I hope the answers were correct. I will produce my second lesson for you as we look at the impact ice has on our landscape. Take care, boys. All the best.